have seen the sun break through to illuminate a small field for a while, and gone my way and forgotten it. But that was the pearl of great price, the one field that had treasure in it. I realize now that I must give all that I have to possess it. Life is not hurrying on to a receding future, nor hankering after an imagined past. It is the turning aside, like Moses to the miracle of the lit bush, to a brightness that seemed as transitory as your youth once. But is the eternity that awaits you. The poem which you've just heard, The Bright Field by R.S. Thomas, illustrates perfectly tonight's theme of sacred spaces. We are now in the season of summer, traditionally a time where we slow down, enjoy a different rhythm of life, as many of us go on holiday. We look forward to a time where we can relax, unwind, look for the bright field. But this summer may be different, with holiday destinations restricted by COVID, and the prevailing unease and uncertainty which continues to haunt us all, despite looking forward to the promise of Freedom Day on the 19th of July. One thing I think we may all share is that we are all exhausted by the experience of the pandemic, its sheer relentlessness. And yet, why is it so difficult for us to rest? Why do we find it so hard to turn aside?
Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly.
That passage from the Message translation of the Bible brought me right back to the original reason for Space to Be. Everybody's spiritual journey through life is unique and their own. Personally, I am drawn to contemplative prayer and stillness because I hope and trust it will bring me closer to God. I felt I had found the bright field and the pearl of great price within it, and I wanted to share it with you. There is no best way to pray. Each of us will pray in different ways at different times. But I do believe that there are spaces which help us to draw closer to God and find rest for our souls. Tonight, I would like to explore a few sacred spaces which may help us to still our restless hearts and minds, where the veil between human life and the eternal source of love and life is thin. I wonder if you have a sacred space where you feel the peace of God. As many of you may be aware, my garden is a sacred space for me. The garden is arguably the oldest sacred space of all, for that is where it all began. In a perfect garden, in a freshly minted world, God and humankind knew each other as never before nor since. After Eden, the quest to know God in a shared space has run deep within the human soul, like a root from a tree buried deep beneath the forest floor. In our different ways, many of us have sought to make our gardens, large or small, a little piece of heaven on earth. The garden has taught me a great deal about the gift of wonder and beauty within God's creation, and how he wants me to work with him to care and co-create. It has also taught me a great deal about patience, as I have waited for a seed to germinate or a plant to recover from the frost or drought. But it is also a place of rest, a place to silently commune with my Creator. The garden has become a place of consolation to many people who suffer from insidious loneliness or after bereavement or loss, particularly during this pandemic. Richard Littledale describes how he became a gardener after his wife died. This space provided solace. He writes, "Where there had been neglect, I could bring nurture. Where there'd been shadow, I could bring beauty and colour. It brought joy to my body and soul and still does." The garden has become a sacred space to me where God is to be found. I have a small pond in my garden, and this is a sacred space I frequently return to. It is a peaceful, sheltered place where the birds come down to drink from the bubble stone fountain. I love the sound of this water, which continually bubbles up, whatever the weather. While sitting there, I watch fledglings perch precariously on the stone to drink, wobbling and fluttering, rather like me in a Pilates class. Damselflies flit across the surface, but holding everything together is the water, the essence of life on this planet, living water. Those two words remind me of a different sacred space, a well in the midday sun, where Jesus asked the Samaritan woman for a drink. This well became a sacred space for an ordinary woman going about her daily work, carrying her life's sorrows like a sack of stones around her neck. This is the place where we come when we've reached the end of our resources. Perhaps we only come for a respite moment. But when we do, we might find ourselves at the gate of heaven, if only for a brief moment of awareness, because down there is the source of living water to refresh us. I wonder how Jesus was feeling when he asked the woman at the well for a drink. What a humble, beautiful request. Divinity asking earth for a drink. If you can, try and imagine this scene as you listen to some music, and imagine Jesus asking you for a drink. How does it make you feel? Or are you in so much need of a drink that it does not seem possible that God is requesting this of you? Have you ever experienced a sacred space which has challenged you or invited you to follow a new path? Deep calls to deep in the roar of your waterfalls. All your waves and breakers have swept over me. These words from Psalm 42 portray the power and might of our Creator. Places near water, from a well to a roaring waterfall, from a quiet riverbank to the crashing of waves on the shore, often provide sacred spaces, if only we will stop a while and give them our attention. They are thin places, full of mystery, where the veil between things spiritual and things material is as thin as gossamer. I remember visiting St. Francis's monastic cell carved out of rock outside Cortona in Tuscany. It was a place which was imbued with the presence of the divine. As I stood there, a huge thunderstorm struck. The narrow rocky paths soon became a torrent of water. I took shelter inside a roughly hewn stone cell and watched the water rush down the hillside. But a great sense of peace filled me in the midst of this chaotic, dramatic scene. This was a thin place where human existence met the power of the eternal Creator. I wonder if you have ever experienced such a place where you felt the veil between human life and eternity was very thin. Saint Augustine, who practiced contemplative prayer, saw the spiritual journey not as going out to find God in a sacred space outside ourselves, but as a journey inwards. Jesus himself said, "Go into a room, shut the door, and pray in secret." That is, in the silent, secret places of our hearts. God is within us. I discovered this truth in another sacred space, a little room called the Hideaway, at the top of a friend's house, where I could come aside for a while and rest, looking out at her magnificent garden below. Often, when we feel we've found a sacred space, we are in fact on an important journey inward, to the depths of our own being, where we will find our true self made in God's image. And in doing so, find that God, our pearl of great price, is within us, at the center of our being. All that is required of us is to be still, silent, and give our full attention to the present moment. Sometimes that deep sacred space within us can be a dark place. Many of us will have experienced those times, particularly in the last year. We may have found this darkness too much, overwhelmingly unbearable, and yet we know, or trust, or hope that this sacred inner space is where we can eventually find wisdom, light, and truth. My favorite Psalm 139 describes this sacred place within each one of us and the closeness of love, our Creator God, even when we do not sense his presence.
can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for the darkness is as light to you.
There is nowhere where God is not. Your sacred space will be unique to you. For some people, playing or listening to music can also produce a sacred space. Many people have really missed the opportunity to sing in a choir during the pandemic. The Reverend Ruth Harvey says, some musicians describe it as like flight, a sense of soaring rightness, a powerful, deep orientation towards the good that helps us to take the wings of the morning and settle on the farthest limits. And yet we also know that in and from the deepest places within us, despair can engulf us. In this mystery, the psalmist reassures us that even as we extend to the depths and heights, we may also find God. This is the paradox we call faith. At the end of my favorite book of the year, Michael Morpurgo's Song of Gladness, I really recommend it. He imagines the whole of creation From the blackbird in his garden to the queen in her palace, singing, singing away their sadness, the song echoing in glorious harmony across the universe. That day will come. Let us start our stilling by placing both feet on the ground and taking a deep breath to the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And out. 1, 2, 3. Now move your shoulders until they are relaxed. And take another breath. 1, 2, 3. And out. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to invite you to travel in your mind to a sacred space where the sun is shining. A gentle breeze touches your skin and you hear the soft sound of lapping water. You are standing or sitting on a beach. And you are the only person here. Look around at your new surroundings. See the gentle rise and fall of white sand on the beach. Notice the pebbles and shells close to the sea, where the sand becomes a darker shade. Watch as the waves wash against the shoreline in their regular rhythm. Again and again. And again. Keep watching the movement of the waves. Notice their pattern as they move in and out. Gently and evenly, in and out. And as you watch, become aware of your breathing again. Notice how regular the pattern is as your breath moves in and out. Gently and evenly, in and out. Continue to breathe evenly, keeping perfect time with the waves. Enjoy the sense of refreshment the sound of the water brings to you. Jesus says, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." Loving God of each height and depth, in the silence, all of my soul reaches out to touch the tip of all that is you. Loving God of each inner space, all of me reaches in stillness and quiet, to touch the hem of you, dwelling as close to me as the tip of my breath. In you I live and move and have my being. Deep calls to deep, and in the roar of the waterfall, I am renewed, refreshed, reborn for this your new experience, new night, and the following day. Amen. May you all experience new sacred spaces this summer.